What's up, everybody? This is Flip from Fight Life Media. On today's episode of The Fight Life, we have Heather Jo Clark in studio. She is going to be trying out for Tough 20, which is the all-female cast of The Ultimate Fighter, so we're definitely looking forward to what she has to say. We also were joined by Marq Piocos. He is the owner and runs Wombat Sports, which is a women's combat sports website. So he's going to give us some of the finer points of running a website and what it's been like covering women's mixed martial arts even before it became as popular as it is now. But without further ado, Heather Jo Clark.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jordan McDonald with Fight Life Media, and I'm sitting here with Heather Clark, professional MMA fighter, and Heather is trying out for The Ultimate Fighter tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's finally here.
Oh man, I've been waiting my whole life for this, Jordan.
Yep. And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. I actually got to go back to LA to my original sensei and work with him for a week, and he got me ready, just so confident mentally, physically, spiritually, I'm just feeling on top of the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It has been a long time coming. You've been training and fighting for quite some time. Why don't you kind of give us a little recap how you got here? How'd you start fighting? What got you into it?
Well, kind of goes back to originally with Benny the Jet. My dad actually, who's here in studio, was doctoring Benny the Jet's fight. So it wasn't his fight, but his student's fight. So at the Jet Center in Van Nuys, when I was just about 4 or 5 years old. So I was up, watching Kathy Long and some of these amazing fighters, and just always kind of loved it, and continued into karate, Shotokan, with my dad, and then of course ice hockey, where I constantly fought all the time on the ice with the boys. And girls as well when I played all girls hockey, but it was just part of my blood. It was just kind of part of my spirit, I guess. I just have that warrior spirit. And my dad being a vet, he just kind of drilled in me, just don't ever let anyone, take advantage of you, just always have that will to win, will to fight, and it's just been instilled in me. So after actually during hockey, when I played Division I in St. Cloud, I started boxing, and so I took maybe 4 months. I took an amateur boxing fight. It was like 1.5 rounds, and I won the fight. But I think I threw maybe a few jabs, but mostly right hands, because my dad was like in the corner, not in the corner, but in the crowd, yelling, "Hit her harder, Heather!" So I was like, oh, just throwing that right hand, trying to knock this girl out, which didn't work. But I won the fight, and needless to say, kind of go from that was 19. Fast forward to 28. I had done, finished my degree in theater and moved to Maui. I was surfing every day, just really active, to moving back to LA. And unfortunately, not so much active lifestyle, just more or less working every day. And I put on a few pounds. So I was like swimming in the gym, Gold's Gym, and looking for a kickboxing gym because I had done it, with Benny the Jet and stuff growing up, but didn't know where to now find one in LA. And sure enough, there's this guy in like Muay Thai shorts in the jacuzzi, and I was like, "Hey, do you know where like a kickboxing gym is?" And he said, "Actually, I'm a teacher, just one down the street. This is the owner. It's an MMA gym." And I'm like, "MMA? Well, what's that?" Again, this is in 2008, so it wasn't that long ago. I didn't even know what it was. And a couple days later, started kickboxing. About 2 weeks after that, my original coach, Roberto Pisanini, from Shootbox, he just started talking to me one day and said, "Heather, you could fight." I'm like, I'm 28 years old. Like, I don't know if this is such a great choice to start professionally fighting now, right? And he said, "No, you got many years till you're going to peak, and it's perfect. A lot of girls are starting it. Look at Gina Carano." And I was watching all her videos, looking her up, and I mean, that was really all there was. Julie Kedzie, but really it was really, Gina was in the spotlight. And then, I told my dad I wanted to do it, and he said, What, are you crazy? And I said, "No, Dad, it's going to get me in the movies, watch." And so that was like my way to kind of get him to accept it. I said, "Look at Gina Carano, right?" And then the next thing I knew, it was like top 10 influential women in the United States, and Gina Carano was like number 4. And I said, "See?" So I got him supporting me. My mom still was like kind of unsure or whatnot, but I ended up in Albuquerque with Roberto, because he was training Rashad for the Machida fight in UFC 98. And found out, all the girls there, Michelle Watterson, Holly Holm, Julie Kedzie.
Yeah, amazing camp.
Amazing. And Roberto moved back to Brazil, and I moved to Albuquerque. So it's kind of where it began.
Nice. So you trained there for a while, and now you're living in Las Vegas. Tell me a little bit about where you're training now, what the move was like, and how living in Vegas is.
Well, it's Sin City, right? No, but now I'm 33, so I've kind of done the whole party thing, and that's not really a big thing anymore. Really, right now is and with all the opportunities, obviously, my whole focus, my whole drive, my life is MMA. Photography here and there when I get a chance, but again, that's almost just kind of fun for me now until I can really get this honed in and get this UFC contract. But it's been great. I moved over originally to Syndicate, and they have a great gym. John Wood, he's an amazing coach. He coached me through my last fight at XFC, and we had a great bond, and it was a great camp, and it was a great fight. But unfortunately, there were some, different political things that went on, and I needed something different, and so I ended up moving over to Extreme Couture. And I'm over there with Robert Follis and Dennis Davis, Misha Tate, now Leslie Smith's coming over. We got girls like Alex Chambers, who's in the Tough 20. She's been over there training with us, here and there. And we just got a group of amazing girls. A new amateur just moved in last week from Portland, so it's amazing. I feel really great synergy there. And it's amazing how everything has just come together at the right time,
It really does seem like that's happened. It's kind of like the perfect storm for you. Like you said,
Yes.
you're just mentally on point. You've got a huge group of girls training in Vegas, which a lot of people don't realize, but there's not always been a lot of girls training in Vegas,
Right.
at least not consistently. So for you to have all that talent, and those are definitely world-class coaches that you're working with, it's definitely a very exciting time. It's an exciting time for me as an observer. But let's talk a little bit more about The Ultimate Fighter. Most people are familiar with the show, and I love that it gives fighters a chance to, really gives them exposure, gets them set up on that main stage, but there's also always a lot of drama involved. It's a reality show. So
Right.
What do you anticipate? Fighting I feel like is already a pretty stressful thing, but now you're going to be living in a house with a bunch of girls, girls that you may have fought before. There's already seems to be like alliances. Like just kind of like break that down for me, what you think that's going to be like.
We'll keep it on a positive note. I know I kind of see it as the movie Mean Girls. Unfortunately, and I'm not one of the mean girls. But I tend to go on there not to make friends necessarily, not to be, a bitch or whatever, but just to go on there and say, hey, you know what, I'm here for one thing, and that's to win that belt. Is nothing else matters. If they want to get in my face, okay, well, let's talk, let's play. But it's I'm going to keep it positive. I'm going to keep it classy. I'm not going to go in there giving fingers, and I'm not going to be the one running around in her underwear, which I'm sure we know some others will, things like that. But it's business. Yeah, there'll be time to sit back, relax, enjoy each other's company. Of course, there's a lot of downtime. I've already have friends like Alex Chambers, amazing girl. She cracks me up, so I'm really looking forward to spending some time with her. Emily Kagan from Jackson's is on the show as well. She's a great girl, so I already know some girls, who I don't really need to worry about because I know how they fight, I know how they train. So I think I'll kind of confide with those girls more than maybe some of the others.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to try to get caught up in the drama. Yeah, it's TV. Yeah, they want to see ratings. Yeah, but you know what? They're going to get what they're going to get out of me is showing that hard work, that determination, that will, that drive. What a real champion's supposed to be. So
yeah, for sure.
That's my goals.
I think a lot of people are anticipating the drama, but I think what's going to shine through is, in my opinion, the 115-pound weight class is the most stacked, most talented weight class in women's MMA.
Yeah.
And I think that these technical fighters like you, like Tesha Torres, like Carla Esparza, just for the mainstream observer to finally see how talented all you ladies are,
Absolutely.
I think that's really going to shine and take center stage. Some people have talked about, you know people in the house. Do you have any problems like fighting a friend?
It's obviously not preferred, you know, like I don't necessarily want to, but no, I have no problems. If I have to fight Emily, you know, I trained with her for 4.5 years, and I will be all friends before we get in there and after. But once we're in there, man, it's a sport, and I'm not trying to hurt her, you know, and I'm just trying to win. And it's a sport to me. It's not about hurting somebody. It's not about ill will. It's about going in there and just performing, being the people's choice, having a great performance. You know, that's what it's about. So if they don't want to get hurt, then tap out right away.
Yeah, yeah.
all.
And I've watched a lot of your fights. Definitely exciting fights.
Thank you.
Really looking forward to it. Getting ready for this experience, you've had a lot of help. Is there any people you'd like to kind of give a shout out to?
Oh, absolutely. Well, obviously all my coaches, Robert Follis, Dennis Davis, even John Wood, you know, helping me this last year. All my sponsors, Vega, you know, Thrive Foods Direct, which is similar, you know, sister company, Brendan Brazier, who started the company. I have Virus and Tussle, of course. You know, Slade's been there for all us women, man. He doesn't get enough, you know, promotion for all the stuff that he's done for all the women. I have Living Dead Tattoo, who's always hooking me up when I have that urge to get tattooed.
Nice.
Let's see, Fight Dentist did some great mouth guards for me. Trying to go down the list. Dr. Steckel, my chiropractor. He's like a magician.
Yeah.
Without him, man, I would be like, you know, Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, my dad has been my hero, my inspiration, my rock through my whole life. Again, my mom as well. She has taught me a lot of morals, a lot of things that to keep me hopefully sane as well on the show. So family, friends, you know, people like you who are staying in active even through injuries, and you know, it's just, I guess, just the whole MMA community just really pushing through and continue to inspire and make me work harder, because the better that they look, the better they make me look.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, we're all kind of living vicariously through you right now, and I'm super stoked for you. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us some of your time. I know this is kind of like the final hours. You're getting prepared.
Luckily, no weight cut though, right?
Oh, sweet. Yeah, you just get to go straight in for the fun stuff.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're pulling for you.
Thank
I'm
you,
really
Jordan.
excited for you, and I know you're going to do great.
Thank you.
And everybody, this is Heather Clark. I'm Jordan McDonald, Fight Life Media. Thank you for tuning in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fight Life Studios. I'm Flip, and we are here with Marq Piocos. He is the man in charge of Wombat Sports. It's basically one of the best websites for any information that you need as far as women's combat sports. So how's it going today?
It's going well. Kind of a busy couple of days for me. I'm down here in Vegas with the tough tryouts, and just getting some interviews, general interviews with some of the talent that's already down here on the, you know, that are training out here, or with other contestants that are going to be trying out for tough, but they're not necessarily 115ers. So it's going to be very exciting next couple of days.
So, you know, let's talk about this, because you are from up in Montana, and you run the website from up there. You know, what's that like for you to have to come down all the way to a place like Vegas, especially for an event such as this, as the women's tryouts?
I mean, it's kind of like a lot of times when we cover Invicta. I mean, when I'm out there, I see quite a few people that are out there. A lot of the WMA press committee that gives out the awards every year. Many of us do come and make the trip out to Invicta, and we come from all different places. Rob Sargent of MMA Rising comes from all the way from Canada, and the WMMA Roundup girls come from the Bay Area. I come from Montana. There's quite a few of us that make that journey all the way over to whatever. So it's kind of a trial of passion, as it were, to go and cover these kind of events.
Now, you've been covering women's MMA for a long time. You know, women's MMA has recently seemed to take off a little bit more. Obviously, overseas it was you know, bigger. Let's talk about the decision to focus primarily on women's combat sports.
I think part of it deals with the fact, I guess I can call myself somewhat of a feminist. I've always believed that women have kind of equal rights. I was actually a women's wrestling fan back in the day. And I became a mixed martial arts fan around this, a little bit later on, during the early days. And when I started finding out that there were females fighting, I kind of jumped on the bandwagon there a little bit. And I felt that they needed a little bit more exposure. And I felt, there's a little bit part of me, I'll admit that it's kind of chivalrous about trying to help out these girls. But I think more in the fact that it's a cause. I think, you see these guys, they're, pouring their hearts out in this cage, but the girls do exactly the same thing, and they show a lot of passion towards this. I think sometimes even more passion than some of the guys do. And I get that feedback from me. That feedback kind of comes back to me, and that gets me passionate to kind of cover them. So there's like plenty of reasons why that I cover it, but I think for one thing, it's kind of the idea of the passion of it as well. It kind of goes into the fact that we've gotten to a point where we never thought that women's mixed martial arts would be. And I've been kind of branching out into other combat sports now to try to get them to the point where, like where a lot of the girls are right now in the women's mixed martial arts.
So now let's talk about everything that has changed as far as the sport of mixed martial arts. UFC's opened up, women's MMA now. For somebody that has been as passionate about it as you have, and somebody that has covered it as long as you have, what does that mean to you?
I'm very, very proud. I'm very proud of the girls for sticking in there. The fighters are sticking in there and, sticking to their guns, because everybody else said, nope, never, never, never. Dana had said never. And funny story, 7 or 8 years ago, I was covering a UFC event in Florida. I had asked Dana White, and I think I was one of the first people to ever ask Dana White, will you ever have women in the UFC? And of course he said no at that time. But that was around the time I met Molly Helsel. She was actually fighting, she's the first female fighter I ever met. So I was, when I saw her fight, it kind of got the bug, a little bit of the bug into me. And I asked that question, and he said no. But there's a little bit of pride to be able to say that they've overcome so much. I was a little part of it. I covered the sport. I covered a lot of these fights, and I covered a lot of the girls. But without them being very exciting or being able to make their mark, I couldn't do my job as thoroughly. And I think a lot of credit goes to those girls. And I'm very, very proud of every single fighter that stuck to their guns and said, we're going to make it to the UFC one day. And you see like a girl like Julie Kedzie, who is probably the most veteran person they've ever gotten in the UFC, and she was able to walk out to that UFC octagon and be able to fight. And that was probably one of the proudest moments in women's mixed martial arts, in my opinion. So
let's talk about some of these girls that had been around for a long time. When you see somebody like Tara LaRosa go to get onto the show, obviously she was very highly touted at one point. She was one of the top women in the world, but doesn't get on. How does that affect you as somebody who's followed some of these girls that they just didn't make the cut that last season?
It's a mixed bag. I mean, we gotta understand that these girls like Tara LaRosa come from the old school. There was very few gyms that would train women at all. And, even with that, some of these gyms weren't as quality as they were now. You see some of the girls that are in this generation, they have so many other advantages to where they're training at some of the top gyms in the world. They are learning so much about wrestling, and they're learning so much about, boxing and all that as well from a lot of these great champs. A lot of these girls didn't have that opportunity. But I am kind of proud to be able to say that they are. But some of these girls are getting a little bit older. Their performances may not be as good. I think Tara in particular, I think, it was a situation where she didn't have a solid camp. She was always moving around. And I like the fact that now she's kind of stuck at Jackson's. So now she can improve her game and have a home base, because she never really did have a home base really over the past 5 or 6 years. So, I think it's possible that we can see, come back from Tara LaRosa within the next year or so.
Now, moving forward into this next season of The Ultimate Fighter, you're obviously covering the tryouts. What is it that you're expecting, having known a lot of these girls and covering them for so long?
It's going to be a very interesting season. I think this season's going to be better than the last season, just because there's so many storylines going in, and the fact that Invicta has set up this season. The gals that are already going into the house do have some storylines going in with Carla calling out Tisha Torres. Sorry to say, Claudia Gadelha, who we're hearing is not going to be on the show, but she's signed to the UFC. That would have been a really great storyline if they would have done it. The big thing was, and that's something I talked to Heather about, is the idea that last season, these girls didn't get the opportunity to train with their own coaches. They trained with Misha and they trained with Rousey's, both their teams. It'll be interesting to see how that meshes, and that always kind of skews how the season ends up turning out, because some people might get along better with other people. We might see that Heather might have a little bit better relationship with Gilbert Melendez because McGilbert helped train maybe Leslie Smith once or twice. It's kind of a crazy situation. I think it's up for grabs. I don't know exactly. I can't give you a full, firm prediction. A lot of people are predicting Tisha Torres. Some are predicting, and they're predicting a lot of different people. I really don't know what to expect, and I'm excited about that. I don't know who's going to win that first round. We may see a dark horse end up winning the whole thing, like we did last time. So I'm very interested in seeing how these girls mesh in the house, what the storylines are there, and how the fights go, because we don't know who's going to be facing who, and we don't know who's going to be end up there at the end. It could be somebody we never even thought of.
You make an excellent point when you do talk about the closeness that some fighters might have. I mean, it's no secret from last season that Julie trained with Misha, and that her team out of Spokane, Washington was closely tied in with Misha and Caraway and those people. So you do wonder if some people might get a little more attention than others during the camp.
Yeah, I mean, I really had a problem with that last season, especially with Sarah Moras. I felt that she was my favorite to win the whole thing. She beat Pena before, and then it seemed like she was being shut out, of training, with Misha and all that as well. And it came off really kind of bad, for Misha, even though they kind of divided everything, but it just seemed like they were playing favorites. And that kind of, it kind of ticked me off a little bit. And I know it's not Misha's fault. It's not Caraway's fault. It's just, I think, how the editing went. But I felt that Moras kind of got a raw deal there. So, and I'm in Sarah's corner. I think that she's still a bona fide star, and I want to see the UFC use her. I feel that they kind of said that, no, she doesn't have it. She doesn't have what it takes. I think she does have what it takes. So, my fingers are crossed, and my support is always towards Sarah Moras to be able to go with the UFC. So,
and she probably will have those opportunities, especially now with Juliana going to be sidelined for a while, and they're going to have to keep bringing women into these divisions to maintain just the perspective of the everyday fan for women's mixed martial arts, because you don't want to see them recycling the same people all the time.
That's what's going to be interesting about after the season is over, because it is not going to hinge on it being Ronda Rousey. It's a Ronda Rousey show. After this season, there's so many great, talented, and very charismatic girls in this season that people are going to have their own favorites. They're going to, some people are going to like Felice Herrig. Some people are going to absolutely love Tisha Torres. I absolutely love Alex Chambers. She's a very, very sweet individual. I think there's going to be somebody, a Beck Hyatt. Beck Hyatt, she won Fan Favorite of the Year last year. So there are those girls that are going to be, there's going to be a lot of different girls that are going to be able to connect with a lot of different fans. And that's what's going to be interesting coming after the season, because after the season's over, then we're going to see, divisions. We're not going to see a Ronda Rousey camp versus a Miesha Tate camp. We're going to see a Tisha Torres camp, a Beck Hyatt camp, a Felice Herrig camp, maybe a Heather Jo Clark camp if she makes it in. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of different, I think there's going to be a bunch of different factions. A lot of fans are going to be kind of divided. But I love that idea. It gets them more motivated, and it gives you that kind of feeling that, it's kind of like when you're like pro wrestling. There's that kind of feeling of belonging. Like you're a CM Punk fan or you're a Cena fan. I think we're going to get that with these gals. These gals are going to be, they're going to be their own individual characters, and they're going to go through, and people are going to be cheering for one or the other. So it's going to be very interesting to be able to see these gals go through the season and then get their own individual kind of fans.
Now let's take a step back to the website that you do run. Let's talk about some of the challenges you may have faced in running a website from that remote location. We did talk about it a little bit with you traveling and stuff, but what's that like for you to have to keep up on everything that's women's MMA, especially at a time when it was more international?
I think thank God for social media. I think a lot of it deals with the fact that I got a lot of connections, and that takes work. It's great to be able to see so many fans out there, and I think, and this is the one point I want to get out to the fans, and that's if you're a fan in South Africa, if you're a fan in Germany, if you're a fan in Japan, if you're a fan in Australia, I want you to cover more events. I want, if you're a fan and want to do this, then start locally. Because I'm seeing sites in Brazil that are all female mixed martial arts. I'm seeing German sites that are all female mixed martial arts. I'm seeing sites in Japan that are all female mixed martial arts. And that also kind of extends to the fact of being regional. If you're an MMA fan, you don't necessarily have to cover the UFC. Cover your local events. I think it's very important for first of all, for the fighters to get known into a national scene, and the best way to do that is to have regional coverage. And I think it helps out in the fact that it's going to give people like UFC and Invicta an opportunity to be able to see where you are at. I mean, if anything proves this point, it's Beck Hyatt, because I was covering Beck Hyatt before anybody knew who Beck Hyatt was. The first thing I ever covered of her was a very nasty she got knocked out, really, really nasty. And she kind of approached me and asked me if I could start doing some coverage of her because she was going to make this huge comeback. I said, absolutely, I wouldn't mind at all. And look at how big Beck Hyatt is now. But there is those little moments that you have that little bit of sense of pride that I got to introduce this fighter as a local fighter, and now he's in the UFC. So there's a little bit of sense of pride that you help that person go all the way through, not just in women's mixed martial arts, but also in a regional martial art for the men. I think it's very important, and I want to get that message across to anybody that's a fan. If you want to start up a website and be able to do that, you should be able to do that. I'm doing it myself. I have my own website called mtcage.com also that covers Montana mixed martial arts. I highly recommend anybody to do that. If there's a regional, their regional website like Bluegrass MMA, feel free to start, ask if they can write a couple articles as well. There's a little bit of pride in that, and you do get a lot of benefit from it. And I'm living proof that you get benefit from it. From a remote location, I mean, seriously, and I said thank God for social media, and thank God for the support of the fighters. The fighters have really kind of backed me. The story goes with the website, and I'll just give you a little bit of history. I was with Fighter Girls for a while, and basically, ultimately, Fighter Girls wasn't doing the way that I wanted it to. They weren't publishing my articles at a expedient amount of time. I wanted to do more articles, but they were not publishing everything, so I decided to leave Fighter Girls and just start my own website. And it was a risk. It was a risk because I wasn't, I had some connections, but it was a huge risk, and I had a lot of support behind me, and it was unbelievable to see how much support kind of came off behind me when I launched Wombat Sports about 5 or 6 years ago, and now my readership is huge. I've got a lot of support from a lot more fighters, and it's just great to be able to see every day that there's somebody behind my back saying that you're doing a good job. I appreciated Heather saying I did a good job. I'm appreciative that Jordan says I did a good job. I'm just trying my best to be able to raise them up as much as I possibly can so they can be the best that they can be.
Now let's talk about amateur mixed martial arts and the importance of covering some of those athletes. You're obviously going to be going down to the Tough Enough offices, you were saying, to work, talk to the promoter and then also talk to some of the girls that were fighting basically for an Invicta contract. How important is that to you to be able to cover fighters from that level?
I got to a point with the website that, I'll be with the UFC, a lot of the major websites, who would never have covered WMA in the past, 3 years ago, are starting to do it now. They're starting to cover Invicta. They're starting to cover Invicta. They're starting to cover UFC. They're starting to cover a lot of the major promotions. Well, it kind of, I kind of want to change my focus because it's like, well, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be able to find that next star and to be able to raise them up. And again, there's a little bit of pride in that. Like I said, Beck being a good example of that. I mean, there's several. I mean, Tisha, I started Jessamine Duke. I did right after her first fight. I was able to get an interview with her. And so I started starting interviews with a lot of these gals way before they were on the national scene. And there's a little bit of pride to do that, to be able to cover like amateurs, just because, you say that, you besides the fact that you can say that, hey, I helped her, early on when nobody would listen. But the fact also that, also the fact that they, they need the sport, obviously, but also the fact that it's different. I want to be a little bit different than everybody else does. I mean, besides the fact that there's amateur MMA, there's also the fact that I also cover women's Muay Thai. I've started upping up my coverage of women's Muay Thai and also women's boxing, because I feel that they need exposure and recognition. So I think there's a little bit of pride in that. I think a little bit about the importance of seeing where the next star is going to be from. Jamie, for example, who's in the finals, is, if she wins this, she's going to be Invicta. And if she's in Invicta, then she's going to have a huge spotlight on her, because this is going to be a national thing. If what I'm hearing about Invicta is going to happen, this is going to be huge. This is going to be huge for her, because she could be fighting on national television her next fight if she wins this one. So it's important, and it's also important for me to cover amateur mixed martial arts for the fact that I'm helping gals like Julie Kedzie and Shannon Knapp, because when I'm talking to them, they were like, always keep your eye, I always want, can you please keep an eye out for some talent that we may want to look at. Well, I'm always looking for great amateur talent, and I always want to make sure they get enough exposure that if they're doing a pretty good job, on the record, that they get exposure so they can get those opportunities. And it's very important to build the sport that way.
Now, if anybody wants to go to any of your sites, can you just give them a quick plug on where to find you on social media?
Well, first of all, you can go to wombatsports.com for any of the MMA. And like I said, Muay Thai, because I think Muay Thai is expanding by leaps and bounds. There's some really great gals out there that are trying to cover it, and I'm kind of helping this, help them really kind of advance their news. So I always do a column every Thursday called Muay Thai Thursday. I highly recommend anybody goes and reads that. I always do the MRS column on Friday for any miscellaneous news. So if there's one story that you have to read on the website, it's the Friday column, the MRS. So make sure you guys check that out as well. So wombatsports.com. At Wombat Sports, you guys can check out news articles there as well as results, because I'm always updating results. At WMMA News, I always say that if you want to follow me at WMMA News, that's usually me with the news plus some commentary. So you guys can check me out there as well. In terms of regional coverage, mtcage.com. I'm very excited for mtcage.com, where we're helping out with a all-female card that's up in Montana. Quick shout out to Corey Smith. At Intense Cage Fighting. We're doing a all-female card up in Great Falls, Montana on May 19th. Right now, we have some really good fights. The co-main event right now is two Invicta veterans, Liz McCarthy versus Cassie Robb. Really, really great fight as the co-main event. And you can follow at MT Cage for the, that's MT Cage, for any news on that, as well as Wombat Sports, because we're doing it through both sites. So make sure you guys check that out. Also on Facebook, Wombat Sports, you guys can check out all the stuff there as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to tweet me. If I don't know it, I'm going to try to find it out for you. So a lot of these fighters, will be upfront and honest to say, if they have any opinions on anything. So. Make sure you guys go to wombatsports.com and check out all that as well. We just revamped the site this year, and really looking forward to a very solid 2014. And it's just going to be a crazy. It's going to be a crazy next month or so. So you guys are going to get some really great content, some really great interviews, and definitely check that out as well. And I'm going to go ahead and do my shout outs. Shout out to. Two of the guys that helped mentor me and when I started Wombat Sports and when I started working at fightergirls.com Rob Sargent of MMA Rising, who does an absolute great job. He's been kind of a mentor to me in terms of covering women's mixed martial arts and really helped me out there. Tim Peterson, who runs the WMMA Today website. He's the kind of the records keeper of the pro fights. I try to do the amateur fights as much as possible, and he's always been a help, always been supportive as well. WMA Roundup girls who have been there from the beginning as well. They do an awesome job. You guys got to check them out, WMARoundup.com. Their videos are just absolutely hilarious and fun and really informative. And Sam Wilson, who's probably the preeminent women's matchmaker out there. And she's the gal that's had my back from day one. And you know, she saw the potential that I had in reporting, and I'm very, very proud to call her my friend. And hopefully we'll have some big news coming up in the next couple of months. So please stay tuned for that.
All right, Mark. Well, we want to take some time to thank you for coming down and you know, dropping a little bit of knowledge on us as far as, you know, what it's like to run a website, what it was like to kind of get in that niche market, because not too many people are really aware of what goes on with people that do the journalism side of it.
It's a lot of hard work, and really, to tell you the truth, I think I said it's beneficial. And like I said, I encourage people to start sites and really kind of, you know, learn a little of journalism too. I come from a journalism background, so that kind of helped me as well. So I have a little bit of journalistic ethics to kind of be equal and fair. But I really encourage fans again to, you know, support their local MMA. If they feel like they can contribute, you know, start a site and start reporting results. You know, a lot of times I don't get the results right away because people don't post them anywhere. So you know, be that platform, be that place where you can help those fighters become successful. It just helps the fighters out. As much information as you can get online, the better. So you know, just keep working at it. And I'm encouraged by all the new female mixed martial arts sites that have started up over the past 2 or 3 years, that have come out of the few that came out years before that. So just keep rolling, everybody, and like I said, just keep on supporting mixed martial arts. Keep on supporting women's mixed martial arts, because these girls are going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a sustainable thing. It's not going to be one of those things where we're going to see them drop off the face of the earth. We've got girls as young as 8 and 9 that are going to be the next. They say they're going to be the next Ronda Rousey, or they're going to be the next Miesha Tate, or they're going to be the next Tecia Torres. So just keep supporting them and make sure that you encourage those little girls to be the next Ronda Rousey and the next Miesha Tate.
All right, everybody. Marq Piocos from Wombat Sports. Make sure you guys check them out, and definitely, once again, thank you for being on today.
No problem. Thank you.
Yep. Hey everybody, we want to thank you for checking out this episode of The Fight Life. We also want to thank Heather Jo Clark for stopping in and talking to us about her past with some of the fighters that are trying out for the Ultimate Fighter 20 and what we can expect to see out of her if she gets on the show. We also want to thank Marq Piocos for coming all the way down to Fight Life Studios and giving us some insight into what it's been like running a women's combat sports website and what all that entails. So once again, without you, there is no us, and you are Fight Life Media.